Says you're saying you don't want Trump to win, but isn't the only way for Trump not to win is to vote for Kamala? I don't get it. Yes, but you do understand, I hope, that there is nothing I can do personally. My point has always been that politicians have to earn your vote. And if they don't do that, if they actually operate on this idea that like it's just lesser evil voting, it's just harm reduction over and over again in every election cycle, they will not work to earn your vote. And therefore, many people, a plurality of voters that don't go out and vote, will continue to not go out and vote. Okay? That's my point. Harris wipes out Trump's lead in battleground states in the Bloomberg poll that just came out. Michigan at 53% for Harris, 42% for Trump. Arizona at 49% for Harris, 47% for Trump. Nevada at 47% for Harris, 45% for Trump. I've never felt more vindication in my entire life for actively telling you that this would happen, and it literally did. And every single motherfucker in the chat was chirping at me like, oh, but like, isn't it too late? Well, not every single motherfucker, but the Brandon Dead Enders were in the chat being like, oh, well, isn't it too late to do a swap out? Georgia goes into a tie with Harris at 47, Trump at 47. North Carolina, Donald Trump is at 48 and Harris is at 46. People were incredibly upset about how old Biden was. That was a major issue for Biden. Honeymoon cupcake polls, those numbers will go down. Those numbers will go down if Kamala Harris doesn't use this momentum to her advantage. And part of that absolutely has to be changing course on a bunch of things that separates her from Biden. If it's just like she needs to stay on message when it comes to economic policies that Biden was advocating for, all that stuff was really good. Maybe push even harder, straight up. But in terms of like Israel, Palestine, which by the way, these numbers in Michigan will go down if she comes out and swings in the direction of Israel. When the situation in Lebanon is reaching a crisis point and it's boiling up, you need to understand in terms of Biden's immigration policy, she needs to at least like change the trajectory, change the message. But if Kamala Harris comes out and swings for Israel, the numbers in Michigan will change a little bit. Like obviously there's plenty of voters in Michigan that were not interested in Joe Biden due to his age, due to the way he presents himself, but there's still a large enough constituency that is actually looking to see what she will say and do about Israel. There is a large enough constituency in Michigan that wants to understand what Kamala Harris is going to say and do about Israel. And apparently it seems like VP Harris says Israel has the right to defend itself against a terrorist organization like Hezbollah. That being said, we still must work on a diplomatic solution to end the fighting, which is like basically just Joe Biden. I mean, it's just Joe Biden 2.0 so far. It comes down to whether Americans will be swayed by the aesthetics of progress in the form of a black woman that is much younger than Joe Biden, or if they genuinely want change. The aesthetics does work. Marketing does work. What do you mean if she has and will continue to support Israel? I know. It's a matter of what her support for Israel looks like. How do I explain to leftists that are hard on voting that I won't vote for her unless her stances in Israel change? I don't know why you just constantly try to find yourself at odds with other people where you like have to explain your positions. I genuinely don't get it. Ultimately, I don't know what this conversation, like, I don't know how people have to have this conversation. Maybe it's weird, but like, maybe I just don't have a lot of diehard liberals or diehard leftists even on that front that are constantly being like, what are your takes on this? Are you in the pocket for Kamala Harris? Are you going to vote for her? Like, I find that to be concerning. I've never been a person who thinks like you have to vote for the Democratic Party. I understand the harm reduction arguments, especially in prior years. But in terms of like harm reduction arguments, it's like the candidate has to win your vote. They have to earn your vote. That is democracy. That is how democracy works. We need to call it something different if that's not how democracy works. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? What's the point of even theoretically claiming we are a democracy if you're just going to constantly hyper-focus and clue in on like a shrinking, an ever-shrinking group of like rights for a group of marginalized people that consistently gets smaller and smaller? Last election cycle, it was immigration, right? Oh, dude, you want immigrants to be murdered? Like, that's crazy. I can't believe that you don't want to vote for the Democratic Party. And at that point, Joe Biden was at odds with Trump's immigration policy. Now, that time has passed, long gone. 4 years of Joe Biden, he actually adopted Trump's 2020 immigration policies. literally, and tried to push a bill for it. He did. And now people can't say, oh, you don't care about immigrants no more. So they say, what about trans people? I guess you just don't want I guess you are voting. I guess you don't care about trans people. That's why you're not voting for the Democratic Party. And it's like, dude, how many times are you going to play this fucking song and dance? Okay. Yeah, man, the tiny minority that are, let me check, women. Yeah, my bad. Such a tiny minority for me to try and look out for. Man, suck my dick. Okay. Yeah, man. Shut the up. You're literally doing this dumb shit right now as I'm in the process of talking about this. 4 years of a Democratic leadership and women's rights were cratered in the process. The do you mean? Like, what commitment do you have to women at all? And I'm not even talking about just like women in Gaza, which are being slaughtered with our endless support for an apartheid state. Okay. The fuck are you talking about? I hate this argument. I don't want to blast a lot of like young people who are, or even old people who are firmly committed to the Democratic Party right now, but you are begging for it if you come in here with this energy. Okay. Like the idea that like this community or myself don't care about women's rights. The fuck have you done, dumb? We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for specific groups in red states that work with women, underprivileged women that desperately need medical procedures such as abortion. And you're in here being like, then that happened under a Democratic leadership, by the way. God damn. I'm not out here saying vote for the Republicans. I would never say that. That's dumb as I'm simply saying that the Democratic Party's posture changes year over year, and the ratchet effect is very real. And it's directly a consequence of this two-party duopoly, where one party consistently capitulates to the right-wing framing on issues, and the other party keeps pushing the needle further and further right, regressing people's individual liberties. And you're left with a smaller margin of issues that you can say is different than the Republicans. Well, tough for you because I live in Wisconsin, so should I just not vote for Kamala? Did I say that? I said vote for whoever the fuck you want, as long as it's not Donald Trump, okay? Suck my dick. You can hate it, but if you want to try and tell me there's zero consequences for women if Donald Trump gets elected, yeah, nice one. You're arguing with someone, like you're shadow boxing with someone. You're not arguing against my positions. If you want to vote for Kamala Harris, go vote. Vote illegally, okay? Vote 10 times, 20 times if you want to. I don't give a shit. Like, what are you talking about? You just want an argument to feel good. You want someone to tell you you're a good boy or a good girl or a good MB for going out and doing your civic duty. That's what you want. You want to feel good about your vote. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, so that pisses you off. It's the same dynamic since 2016 and far before 2016 as well. It's always the same shit. It's not your vote, and your confidence in the Democratic leadership is not sufficient. It's not sufficient enough. I'm over here abiding by a very obvious democratic principle, okay? Which is that your elected representatives need to earn your vote. If they simply rely on the aesthetics, or if they simply rely on harm reduction arguments, as the Democratic Party does all the fucking time, they are not going to garner enough support to actually eke out an electoral college win. This happened in 2016. This literally happened in 2016. That's not how most people vote. At the end of the day, no matter how dumb the median voter is, the average American still votes on vibes for the most part, but they also want to vote for something. The only way that you can actually get a commitment, a firm commitment to go out and vote in a country where it is literally as difficult as physically possible, like the process is completely made difficult in an effort to ensure that people don't go and vote. You're over here being like, oh no, yeah, in a country where the plurality historically doesn't vote, of eligible voters don't vote as a consequence of the electoral college and the way that it's designed. Do you think Harris will change course on immigration? No, I don't. Joe Biden had a majority in both the House and Senate for 2 whole years and didn't protect women's reproductive rights. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally a gay person of color, MB, and this lib stuff won't make people like me like this lib anymore and give them awards. I wish they would understand that. It's weird to act like this and need to push this lib narrative. At least you're yelling at him. Yeah, it's just like so weird. It's so odd. Why would you make demands for more progressive politics when an election is right around the corner and they need your votes? It would be much more civil and courteous if you voted for Harris and then asked nicely. Exactly. That is unironically the argument that some of these people make. Like, they're just hysterical too. They don't even make it like that. They make it in a hysterical way where it's like, you don't vote for Kamala Harris if you don't offer your undying loyalty to Kamala Harris right now, that means you want women to be murdered. You want trans people to be murdered in every corner. They can't say that about immigrants, though. Notice how they can't say that about immigrants any longer? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that strange? How at least in 2020 they could say that about immigrants too, but they can't say that about immigrants no more. I wonder what happened. Oh, that's right. We all went out and we voted for a dude in terms of harm reduction, and that dude turned around and was like, yo, immigrants too, but democratically. So you can judge Trump voters, but we can't judge non-voters. I mean, I judge all voters, but I certainly will judge Trump voters because Trump voters are unironically delusional. What the f could have Biden done with the Supreme Court clown? Yeah, you're right. What could the president do? Then why are you voting? Hey, can you explain to me why you're voting for the president if they can't do anything about anything? Because this is also the other side of the Democratic Party defense brigade, when they always go, yeah, actually, why do you have these expectations from the president? Why do you have any expectations from the president? Okay, then why the f should people vote for the president, dumb? The f do you mean? Ultimately, it comes down to this. You just want to feel good that your team won. That's literally it. If your goal is not to actually get some kind of serious demands from the elected representative that you're going to go out and vote for, if you don't want any demands from them, then you just are voting to feel good. You're voting like you did your part. You're voting like you're saving the country or some shit. It's so weird. And you're yelling at someone who doesn't give a shit. Like yeah, I'm not going to be like, don't vote for Kamala Harris. It's insane. Okay. I don't care. Vote for Kamala till the cows come home. But don't sit here and act like you're actually doing something revolutionary. Like you're doing something unimaginably progressive when you also simultaneously turn around and go, well, what could the president do about the Supreme Court? Then why are you voting? It's set, you know? It's set in motion. Nothing we can do about it, I guess. Young libs know nothing but defensive voting for 8 years now. I miss being excited about voting. I mean, it's just, for most people, it's their first or their second election. By the third one, they'll know. Every 4 years, we have this back and forth. That's what it is. It comes from youth. It comes from the naivete that comes along with like thinking that things will change for the better. It's fine. I like that, you know. Go out, kings and queens and dempers, okay? Crazy that a rich white dude doesn't care about who wins law. Yeah, no. And then these lines of attack come in. It's like that, like I'm so privileged. That's why I don't care. You know, you on the other hand, you're the least privileged. You're a gay, non-binary black person in a wheelchair, and your rights are at odds with everyone else's. And that's why you're voting for the Democratic Party, because voting for the Democratic Party is a defensive measure. No, you're right. I've never heard that before. Thank you. And but you're no longer an undocumented immigrant. Once again, remember, because you were, you know, a gay, non-binary black person in a wheelchair that was also an undocumented immigrant, but you're no longer an undocumented immigrant. You're documented now, because obviously the immigrants, you know what I mean? I definitely have privilege, but I'm not going to act like a dick to people who want to vote, lol. I'm not being a dick to people who want to vote. I said, go vote for Kamala Harris. I am a dick to people who want to vote for Donald Trump. You're once again arguing against a position that I don't have. You kind of are. You're saying they're being naive. Well, they are. People are being naive if they think that voting for a party without getting any assurances or demanding any assurances is naive. And assuming that the party will actually do their bidding is naive. When has that happened for them? That has not. And it's not like I'm saying there's an alternative out there. There's like a communist alternative that you need to vote for. I mean, I joke about PSL Andy's Tuesdays in the chat chirping till the fucking cows come home about voting for PSL all day, every day. I make jokes about that too. But if you take it super seriously and you get like really upset, then yeah, I'm going to make fun of you, because it does stem from naivete. People come into your chat and act like you haven't been against Trump and say, why are you bashing Trump voters? Yeah, that's always awesome. I mean, that's good. That's good. Those guys can be convinced. Potentially. New poll drop. Yeah. Harris has wiped out Trump's lead across 7 swing states in the latest round of the Bloomberg News Morning Consult poll. The poll found a big damn lead in Michigan, a more modest Trump lead in Pennsylvania, and close contests everywhere else. Dead heat. Every 4 years, you'll be getting a new crop of youth voting, and you'll perpetually have to explain the same busted electoral system forever. Potentially. I will say this again. You don't want me chirping about Kamala Harris or chirping about ride or die Dems, because my issue with Joe Biden isn't just that he's fucking old, okay? There's plenty of other things that I had issues with Joe Biden and openly said I would never vote for Joe Biden. But if you think that that was the only reason, because he was old, you're wrong. If you come in here and chirp at me for not being sufficiently pro Kamala and being in the tank for Kamala, I'm gonna criticize Kamala Harris. Did you vote for Brandon in 2020? I did. That's the issue. Many people many people's problem with him was, and that's crazy. It's not that crazy. It's a pretty big issue that like the person who's running for president's mental faculties are not in order. Don't you know that not voting for Kamala will cost her the election in California? No, it's not even that. I'm not even saying that. Even if I lived in a swing state, I would be saying the same straight up. It doesn't matter where you live. What matters is your politicians making assurances to earn your vote. This is a fundamental principle in democracy. Okay, you make this calculation. I think it's insane to be like, no, shut the fuck up and vote. Put your head down and vote. And that's not how people vote anyway. Even if you do, even if you vote that way, okay, other people don't. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard I chirp. If I could swing votes in any direction in a meaningful capacity, if I had that power, okay, if I could go up against multi-billion dollars in campaign fundraising and multi-billion dollars in free and earned media from mainstream media, right now Bernie Sanders would be president and we would have abolished term limits so that he could be president again. I do not have this power. If I had this power, Hillary Clinton would have been president in 2016. I recognize the writing on the wall with Donald Trump in 2016, and I urge people to go out and vote for Hillary Clinton, okay? It didn't work. Didn't work at all. I was with her. I'm still with her. Fuck it. Make Hillary Clinton the nominee. I'm not in the tank for the Democratic Party across the board. I need you to understand. I'm not a vote blue no matter who guy. I'm not in the tank for the Dems. I have my own positions, and I have never shied from criticizing the Democratic Party, even if it's an election, even if it's not an election, just because you're paying attention to shit that's happening right now because the election cycle has started and now you're interested again, doesn't change my positions. Like, why is that such a radical position? Why can't you be on the inside wondering why shit is fucked up? Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know why people, I mean, people are just so, I don't know. People are just, have you ever voted red? No, no. Come on, man. My criticisms of the Democratic Party stem from their proximity. And by that, I mean their closeness to Republican Party positions. That's insane. All I'm saying is not voting does not count as activism. Wait, what? Did I say that not voting does not count as activism? The only time it counts as activism is in the primaries, where the uncommitted campaign, which is still voting, by the way, was a phenomenal opportunity for people to show the Democratic Party that they were not happy with what things were. So technically you are blue no matter who? Wait, what? Every single argument that people are making in the chat, they're basically making against like an enemy that they've propped up in their minds. Okay. This is not a position that I've had. This is not a position that I've maintained. This is not a position that I've ever advocated for. That's it. I'm not an accelerationist by any means. Not at all. I don't want Donald Trump to win. That's why I advocate for the things that I advocate for, because it's sound policy and it's good politics. And it's kind of wild to come in here and chirp at me when like the Democratic Party seemingly has maybe not heard my talking points, but has like genuinely done a bunch of the things that I actually said must happen. And now you're looking at the polls on showing exactly what I've been saying, nonstop, and you're still chirping at me. As someone who is not that into politics overall, I genuinely don't understand how people can misunderstand you so frequently. Even if they disagree, you're explaining your position in a way that even I understand. Yeah. Just you're saying you don't want Trump to win, but isn't the only way for Trump not to win is to vote for Kamala? I don't get it. Yes, but you do understand, I hope, that there is nothing I can do personally, okay, unless I guess like seemingly the Democratic Party listens to the things I'm saying, which is laughable. It's not going to happen. My point has always been that politicians have to earn your vote. And if they don't do that, if they actually operate on this idea that like it's just lesser evil voting, it's just harm reduction over and over again in every election cycle, they will not work to earn your vote. And therefore, many people, a plurality of voters that don't go out and vote will continue to not go out and vote. Okay? That's my point. This is the most important election for our lifetime, just like 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, 2028, 2032, 2036. Yeah, it's always the most important election. I've never had a situation where it was the least important election. You know what I mean? Nobody ever comes out and says this is the least important election of our lifetime. That was the Hillary problem. Just vote for me. I'm the only choice. Exactly. And it was objectively a bad way to run a campaign, and it failed. I think 2016 legitimately was the least consequential election. I think it was actually a very consequential election. I think that's what you're saying, right? Because it was. I don't think you understand the influence you have on your viewers. Man, shut up. The influence I have on my viewers. Yeah, I'm gonna swing votes, dude. Even if I had the capacity to swing votes, if that was real, then the Democratic Party would listen to me, but they do not. And therefore, or if I have the capacity to literally change the trajectory of a election, then don't you think it's idiotic for the Dems to not listen to me then? Because if I'm this all-powerful being, let's say 37,000 people are currently watching me, every single one of them is an American who's registered to vote in a fucking swing state, which is not the case. I have an international audience as well, but let's say they're all over the age of 18 and they're all swing state voters, every single one, right? Don't you think that if that was the power that I held in my hand, that the Democratic Party should listen to someone so powerful? Obviously, that's not the case. And I do not have that capacity because a lot of people have peasant brain. A lot of Americans have peasant mentality. We fancy ourselves to be revolutionary figures that dump tea. We think, no, we're all big, bold, brave patriots at the end of the day. We're revolutionary figures at the end of the day. But a lot of us have peasant mentality. The idea that you resort to, my lord, my vote is for you, my lord. If not, the other leader will be much, much worse, my lord. You can do whatever you want. That's undemocratic. That is not how democracy works. That's not how it should work. The entire principle behind the democratic process is that politicians are supposed to come to you and say, what do you want? I got you. But a lot of people operate on the assumption that, like, no, there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of American politics, and therefore we just vote for one God King over the other. That's not how this works. You smell me? You understand me? If you hold no influence on your audience, then why bother doing what you do? You must think you have some kind of positive impact on people. Absolutely. I do believe that. I do. But it's not about altering the trajectory of the Democratic Party. I can't do that. I can only arm you with the belief that you have in your fellow workers to be able to make marginal changes in your immediate life. I can only arm you with the confidence to go and organize in your workplace, go out and run for office, local elections. Like, that's all I can do. And that's what I try to do every day. Bro, Donald Trump is literally the smartest and most effective president since Abraham Lincoln. I have plenty of examples, and you're literally brainwashing people to become anti-Republican and therefore ruining democracy of the land of the free. Oh, come on. This is a fake. This is not a real. No actual Republican writes like this. Okay, this is a liberal LARPing as a Republican. They're baiting. Come on. My justification for voting for Kamala is her undying support for unions as well as her stance on healthcare. I'm a FedEx driver making around 50K a year. I hope for a union future. As for Palestine, I truly hope that her stepdaughter can somehow get through to her. Wait, I don't know if you know her stance on healthcare, but I think she literally walked back her support for Medicare for all recently. Maybe I'm crazy, but I never can hear Republicans running around and being like, if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you want America to be homosexual. If you don't vote for Donald Trump, you want every American to be raped by Guatemalan migrants or whatever. They don't do that. No, they don't. They don't do that. You want to know why they don't do that? Because Republicans do actively try to brainwash their audience and also simultaneously run on positions that the captured audience members are actually advocating for. They're so clued in on their base that they literally do things that hurt them politically, including banning abortion. Like, they're so captured by certain parts of their base of voters, like the evangelical Christians, that they've literally launched like 40-year projects that successfully rip bodily autonomy from women. They do say that, but they are being so clearly manipulative and dishonest that it doesn't ring in the same way. You're right about hogs usually, but you're way off on the mark on this. No, okay. I didn't represent my position appropriately. The Republican Party actively gets their agenda done, no matter how awful it is. The Democratic Party doesn't, no matter how good it is. You're misunderstanding, but that's my fault. I will take ownership over my lack of effective communication on this. The Republican Party listens to their base, and no matter how ride or die or how insane those policies are, they will push for it. Think about it this way. There are enough people in the base of support for the Republican Party that are so aggressive on the issue of arming Americans that the Republican Party will actively push for legislation that like allows ammunition vending machines near schools. Or the Republican Party actively was running on arming teachers after the Parkland school shooting. It was the Parkland one, right? There's so many goddamn school shootings. The Republicans literally look to their base and go, oh, these guys are crazy. but we'll give them what they want. Fuck it. Who cares? Do you understand? They give their different constituencies what they want and they push for it. And they don't just campaign every 4 years. They campaign every day. They campaign every day for 4 years. They campaign constantly. They're always on message. Democrats completely cast aside all this when they're in power and only remember that like, oh, we are running for election. We're running for re-election. Oops, time to dial it up a little bit. And then a lot of people just eat it up. And then they turn around and posture like a vote for the Democratic Party is actually going to make abortion legal in the country or somehow simultaneously defeat the Supreme Court supermajority. And it's odd. And I don't want the Republican Party to win, which is why I keep saying that the Democratic Party needs to do more, especially because when they do things, when they do progressive legislation, then the reactionary Republicans fight against that. Okay? Here's how it works. I'm going to pull up paint. I'm going to pull up paint and try to explain this visually. Let's say this is the American political spectrum. Okay, this is max communism and this is Nazi. Okay, if this is the peak, okay, this is the peak of like where you can go in American politics. You push further and further right, you inevitably arrive at Nazi policies. You push further and further left, you inevitably arrive at, you know, full-blown false dichotomy. It's not. It's reductive, but it's not a false dichotomy at all. Okay? So here's how this works. The Republican Party, let's do that with red, is like around here. And every year they go, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were here, and now they're here. Okay? And they keep pushing the needle. They keep pushing it over and over again. The Democratic Party can respond to that when they are in power. If the Democratic Party is like here, the Democratic Party could pull back and potentially take back some of the reductions in civil liberties that the Republican Party has advocated for and successfully carried across the finish line. All right? They can do that. But if they want to do that, they have to literally go here so they can pull the Republican Party more to the left. The issue, however, is that the exact opposite happens. The Republican Party goes further right and the Democratic Party goes further right alongside them. The greatest example of this in terms of domestic policy is on immigration. The Democratic Party in 2020, under the leadership of Biden, ran to the left of the Republican Party on immigration. They said that they were going to change. They said that they were here. They said that they were going to change in the first 100 days of Biden's agenda, that they were going to change immigration, change the course of immigration, and actually actively pull the country and actively pull the Republican Party to the left on immigration. They were going to fix the processing issues and whatnot. They didn't do that. They actively did not counter message against the Republican Party. The Republican Party never stopped pushing the narrative that immigrants are rapists and murderers and drug dealers, and maybe some of them are very fine people on both sides. So the country went further and further right, and it's an untested, uncontested narrative. So what did the Democrats do? The Democrats turned around and went more right on immigration and arrived here at the 2020 position of the Republican Party. What the 2020 position on the Republican Party on immigration was, building the wall and being more restrictive on immigration, literally became the Democratic Party's position in 2024. This is what is known as the ratchet effect. This is why you don't hear from the vote blue no matter who chirpers about how if you don't vote for the Democrats, you want kids in cages and you want migrants to be murdered. They don't say that anymore because they can't say that anymore because the Democratic Party changed its position on migrants in cages. They are now pro at least 2020 migrants in cages. The Republicans, but remember, the Republicans even pushed the needle further. Now they're talking about mass deportation. However, on this front, Democrats could do this exact same thing. Democrats could actively push the Republican Party to the left on certain issues. As a matter of fact, on certain fronts, Donald Trump kind of did do that, where the Republican Party's overarching policy positions were always genuinely anti-social spending. Donald Trump kind of cast that aside and said, I mean, he gave the stimmy checks during COVID, and he even ran on and still runs on not touching Social Security. Why? Because the entire country is like, the fuck do you mean Social Security? If you cut Social Security, that's insane. All the voters are old. They're going to lose their minds. So the Republican Party was pulled on Social Security, at least in the top of the ticket. The Democratic Party, and Megaphonics is right on this, focusing on Project 2025 forced the Trump campaign to cut Project 2025. The Democratic Party actively advocating against what the Republican Party has done on the issue of abortion has caused at least some of the Republicans at the top of the ticket to try to moderate their stances on abortion. This is because right-wing reactionaries are reactionaries. That's it. They react. So you have to give them something to react to. If you don't give them something to react to and you let them fucking ride on their narrative that is uncontested, like on the issue of immigration, then they will go further and further right until they're here. And when 2028 comes around and the Democrats have now gotten here, they will be the ones advocating for mass deportations. The Dems will move here. That's where the Republicans are right now on 2028, where they are the ones who are advocating for mass deportations, and the Republicans are the ones who are advocating for mass murder. Okay? So one of my active criticisms on this issue has always been that the Democrats don't launch a strong enough opposition to the Republican messaging on this front. And that is how they allow the Republican Party to push the conversation on things that are pivotal, things that are very important, like immigration, to become completely captured by the right. They capitulate to right-wing framing on immigration. And it's not just the Democratic Party that does this. Liberals across the board in the Western world do this all the time. Labor Party did it as well. You could say the same thing in the other direction too. The Republican platform will need to change if they lose the Dems every time. Yes, that is correct. That's why I like fighters like Waltz or even Bashar to a certain degree. Uncompromising Dems that are objectively popular in their states as governors who have consistently advocated for better leftist economic policies are popular for that reason, because people do believe in them. Why does the Democratic Party work against itself? 2024 isn't different from 2020 or 2016. We know how the Republicans operate, and that hasn't changed. As much as they may dislike it, the Republicans are unified as a party and no, they're not unified as a party. You're wrong. And consistently campaign, whereas the Democrats are divided and forget that campaign is necessary, yet act surprised when they're losing every year. And this isn't just a 2020 thing. It's happening in local elections too. The Republicans are not exactly unified either. That's why Joe Biden was able to actively campaign for the mythical moderate and independent voters that are living in the suburbs and whatnot. Because Donald Trump is so gross and so weird in the way that he advocates for crazy that he was repulsive to a lot of people living in the suburbs.